I'm Eggburt, the owner of this station. Check out my website at eggburt.com. That's EGGBURT, eggburt.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
It is the day after the day that President Biden has decided he's not going to run for re-election. The amazing thing is, you just can't believe things that come out of the White House, because on Saturday there were still statements being issued by the White House. What's the guy's name? Justin something or other. The president is committed to running for re-election and nothing's going to change his mind.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Take that at face value.
Right. I mean, it's like, okay, who issued that? Okay, bunch of things to talk about this morning. I have some notes and stuff like something that we didn't talk about last week. Bud Light is now the number 3 selling beer in the world. Number 3.
And that's behind, is it Modelo? And who's number 2 now?
Michelob Ultra.
Okay, wow.
So at least AB has one of their own brands.
Yeah, but Modelo is owned by Constellation Brands, I believe.
Right. So is that, and the amazing thing about this is, don't ask me why I did this, but just out of sheer curiosity, I just typed into my phone, Dylan Mulvaney, and I got Dylan's page, and it's a very simple page. Matter of fact, it's to the point where it's like essentially a one-page website, and it says trans actress, comedian, content creator, she, they, and then it has contact me. All business inquiries go to CAA and there's an email address. All press inquiries go to ID Public Relations. Okay, if you click on the little hamburger, all it does is take you to the contact page. So this is, and all it is on the contact page, all it just has is the Facebook logo and the Instagram logo. So in other words, if you want to contact Dylan, you can do it that way. So what do you think happened to Dylan's career after this happened? I mean, has anybody talked about this? I mean, obviously, the ramifications of what he, she, they, what does it say? It says she, they, did to Bud Light's reputation. Do you think there are people flocking to hire Dylan Mulvaney to promote their product?
I don't know about flocking, but if I was Dylan Mulvaney's team, I would continue. First of all, I would never go out of sight, and I would continue to do, like shows on Bravo and, generally, let's be honest, generally queer or gay stuff. I would keep my profile high, because even if you're just a C-list celebrity, you can still make a few can't you see Dylan Mulvaney being a judge on RuPaul's Drag Race? Or having some level of infamy, and this guy will always have his fans for being brave and bold and taking a stand. I think if you're inclined to dislike Dylan Mulvaney, then you're already going to dislike Dylan Mulvaney. You see what I'm saying?
Well, but the problem is, like dislike, it comes down to the bottom line: is she, they still making money?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he'll still be a judge on these queer shows and on like the Drag Race shows, can still have a presence there. Now, objectively, people will still know that this guy, along with the Bud Light marketing director who made the call, killed the brand. I mean, at least for a period of time, they killed the brand and caused harm to the brand. But that's an objective view, Brad. That doesn't mean that Dylan Mulvaney can't still make a good living.
I don't know. I mean, the whole thing to me is just, I think it's sort of interesting in the respect that some people can say, well, look how far we've gotten with the acceptance of LGBTQIA, and to the point, I make, what, I don't really care. Just don't push it in my face all the time. I'm like, hey, you're right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose. I'm that kind of guy. I don't really care what you do in your bedroom. I don't really care what you do in your house, as long as you're not throwing dead bodies out in the back porch, and are you're making pipe bombs in the basement which could go off prematurely. I don't care. And that's the Anyway, I don't know.
I mean, I think the other thing, Brad, you and I have talked about this before. We talked about this back when you were on the BS show with Shelley. I remember talking to you guys about it. And the idea of how much something like this can damage a brand long term. Did you see last week the announcement coming out from John Deere about its DEI initiatives?
Yes, and they've got rid of them again, right?
They did, yeah. And they also said that they will no longer be taking part in, quote, social or cultural awareness parades.
Well,
go ahead, Brad.
The same thing with Tractor Supply. Did you see that story as well, too?
Yeah, Tesco. Yeah, TSCO. Yeah, went through the same thing. Yeah. So this is a thing where, excuse me, and, companies, you've talked, Brad, I think, very presciently about the fact that if you come out and you're Bud Light's marketing director and you insult, quote, frat boy humor,
right,
and that's our phrase, and you insult somebody's customers have a choice in where to get beer. And guess what? I'll buy a Modelo. A hypothetical me will buy a Modelo rather than buying a Bud Light. If the Bud Light brand and some uppity woman in an office hates me, I'm probably not going to buy her beer. Meanwhile, if I want to go to Tractor Supply Company or I'm a John Deere guy and my company is out there prancing around in parades and spending a whole bunch of money on DEI stuff, you know what? I'll buy a case tractor, Brad, or I won't go to Tractor Supply anymore.
Well, but see, that's the problem. You mentioned two things. You mentioned John Deere, which essentially is who buys John Deere products. They're American farmers, and you've dealt with them personally. There's probably nobody that has more experience of rubbing elbows with the guys and gals out there who are producing the crops, with you, with cotton, beans, corn, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And they are sort of, I hate always this term, but salt of the earth, whatever the hell that means.
It's true, yeah.
But they're the people that when you go to a county fair and you see the tractor pull and you see, like, for example, year after year after year. You know what my favorite thing about going to the Washington Town and Country Fair is? You're going to laugh when I tell you this.
What's that? Is it livestock, Sean?
No. I go over to they've got a display area where they have the guys, and it's almost always guys, sorry women, but it's guys who've made trailers and farm equipment with their bare hands. They've welded things together.
Yeah.
And they've built, some of them are very elaborate, equipment trailers and things like that. Some of them are those hay bale, those trailers that you stick the big round hay bales on, stuff like that.
Sure.
And I am fascinated by that because here are guys who are, 16, 17, 18 years old who can, fabricate things, weld. It's my favorite thing, and I go over and I look at it and I look at, the intricacies of the way they designed it, look at the welds and things like that. I mean, and those are the people that are buying John Deere, and those are the people that are going to Tractor Supply. Although Tractor Supply has gotten a little bit, it's, you've got the place like out in Cottleville, what's it called, Farm and Home. And
right there on Mid-Rivers.
Right, and you go in there, and it's not like, in the old days, it's not like going to Orscheln, which, there's another company that's gone, because I think Tractor Supply bought them, didn't they? Wasn't that the deal with Tractors?
I don't know if they bought them, Brad. I'm not sure.
I know they're gone now. Orscheln's, at least the one in Washmo's gone. It's something else now. But, and like you mentioned, we talked about John Deere. What was the other one we talked about? We talked about Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
See, once again, this is to me, this is Brad's opinion. This is the influence of a bunch of young MBAs who have gotten into these corporate cultures. Oh, we need to embrace this. We need to embrace that. And
100%.
And all of a sudden, their views all of a sudden come crashing down around them to the point where they may have these great degrees and MBAs and finance degrees and stuff like that, but they don't have what you have. And and let me give background to John. John worked for Monsanto / Bayer, and one of your jobs where you literally went out in the field and worked with farmers, correct?
Yeah.
And
I did.
And you spent what? Probably hundreds of hours, thousands of hours driving around, flying around the country, meeting with farmers, talking to them about.
Yeah, certainly all over the country, Brad.
So if there's anybody who knows that mindset, it's you, right?
Yeah, and well, I think so. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a resume reader, but I think that's fair, Brad. And also, but you underscore a really good point, which is you use the MBA example. That's a perfect example of people taking lessons from a classroom and maybe like a WashU MBA and saying, guess what? We're going to apply this to those old tired industries like agriculture, and we're going to show them what's what, and we're going to teach them about sustainability. And I'll give you an example, Brad. If you were one of those kids, and I call them kids, let's say you're fresh out of an MBA program, even out of undergrad into an MBA, and you go to work for, let's say, let's not even say Bayer, let's say a competitor like Corteva, which used to be Pioneer and Dow DuPont. You go work for a big ag company, and you go in and you tell farmers, hey, listen, we hate to break this to you, but you guys are responsible for climate change. We're going to change all of your processes and procedures. All that stuff you're doing with the ground is not good. You know, you're burning fuel to make those crops. You got to change the way you do stuff. And if I'm like a fourth generation farmer or a first generation farmer, I look at this kid in his bright white shirt and I say, who the hell are you to tell me that I'm not taking care of my earth the way I should?
I couldn't agree with you more. And to a certain extent, I mean, the farmers, you know, you and I talk about this before, and it frustrates me that you get these people, the environmentalists, who are like pointing fingers at like, oh, you're destroying the earth, you know, and yet what do? You know, like for example, we don't have the problem in the United States as much as they do in Europe. And what's the group that wears the shirts that stop oil now or something like that? You know what I'm talking about?
Not green. It's not Greenpeace?
No, there's another group that, and they're after the oil company. And their thing is there's all sorts of videos of them like sitting down on highways. They're the ones that came up with the idea of chaining themselves together. That was it started over in Europe. And it gets to the point where the interesting thing is they're detractors. And now what's starting to happen is the people are just like, there's guys getting out of their car and go like, okay, not putting up with this, and just grabbing them and yanking them off the highway and things like that. But the interesting thing is, when you analyze it, how did they get there? How did they get to that point where they're protesting? You know, they didn't ride their bicycles there. Chances are
absolutely not. They got there on fossil fuels.
Right, exactly. They flew from another country, or they got in a bus, or they got in an Uber or something like that. And isn't that sort of like being super hypocritical that like, we want to stop oil, you know, and yet they're probably wearing some kind of you know, man-made fabric or something like that, which derives from oil. Chances are they're not wearing all cotton. Even if they are, the cotton was processed using fuel, you know, using energy.
100%, Brad. And you know what? Even if they're, let me interrupt, even if they're not, so I spent a lot of time in my career working in cotton and looking at cotton production versus synthetic clothing production. Even if they're not wearing cotton, even if they're wearing a cotton poly blend, it requires a lot of energy and a lot of resources to make polyester, Brad.
Right.
So no matter what they're wearing, it took a lot of energy.
Just drives me nuts. Okay.
And, you know, let's get back to Bud Light real quick, though. It just goes to show, in my opinion, how quickly you can damage a brand by insulting customers. And I don't know if I'm representative. It's a fallacy to take your own example and then think that everybody else agrees. I don't care what Bud Light thinks about transgender issues or whatever. I just don't want to hear about it. And I certainly don't want to feel like they are taking my business for granted. So I would rather have a completely apolitical brand that doesn't say anything, rather than having a Republican brand versus a libertarian brand versus a Democrat brand.
See, John, you've encapsulated my entire belief system where you said it in 3 words. I don't care. You know,
I don't care at all. Agreed.
I don't. You know, in other words, if I go, like, for example, I have someone who I have a little verbal sparring with over Penzeys Spices. Do you know the Penzeys Spices story?
No, I don't know what.
Do you know this?
Spices
You don't know this whole crazy story?
No,
It's been around for a long time. If you go onto their website, okay, and I'm going like, okay, why would you do this? Why would you automatically eliminate half the population when you do this? Okay, I'm just going to type this in.
Yeah, I just Googled them right now. I've never heard of it. Okay, there's a large woman with colored hair. Oh no, she's doing an unboxing. She's not from the company.
Okay,
so they're based out of Wisconsin. Are they a bunch of liberals?
Yes, and they were in vogue because of the Republican convention last week, because of the fact that it was in Milwaukee. And if you go to their website, if you look at the top of their website, I'll just read it exactly as it is: spices, trial bags, gift boxes, accessories, express orders, about us, about Republicans. That's one of the, and you click on that and it goes into this thing. As we've now set our first ever About Us page on our website, there's something unique about humankind's relationship with spices that time and again have caused spices to be a driving force for change. We live in a time calling out for change and for solutions for the very real problems our country, our planet faces. There's two very different futures ahead of us, totally dependent on whether we solve these problems or not. With so much at stake, we feel obligated to use this unique position spices hold in our lives to try to help promote the solutions to these problems. And they go on and talking about watching the slow decline of the Republican Party over the last half century. Okay, after watching the convention last week, would you call the Republican Party in slow decline? Or
absolutely not.
Or
no.
probably more.
Now, but Brad, I'm guessing that their whole thing is, and let's be fair here, there are certainly right-wing or libertarian businesses that say, okay, we are going to become the totally fund the police and screw the protesters coffee brand. Or, hey, buy our soap. We're the official soap of right-wing Republicans. Please pay 3 times what you would pay at Aldi or Walmart for a soap to support our right-wing cause.
I understand that. And I understand that they're, like, for example, my thing is that I look at it with radio, that there are people who, if I said that I needed $1 to keep our transmitter on the air for one more day, otherwise our transmitter is going to go off the air, there would be people going, I'm not giving that guy $1. But if I were God Squad Radio, and and if I were, Joy FM, hey, we need see, once again, I go back in history. The group buys 99.1, which used to be Classic 99, KFUO, owned by the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, whatever, okay? And the first weekend they're on the air, Sandy Brown, I know Sandy. I know her from way back when, and she's a wonderful woman. She comes on the air and she goes, we want to thank all you people for helping us get on the air, but after we took control of the radio station, we realized our transmitter's in bad shape, and we don't know how long it's going to last. So we're asking you to donate for a new transmitter. We need $55,000 for a new transmitter. They had it in like 12 hours, okay? If I went on the air and said, I need a new transmitter, and my transmitter is $5. Will you please send me $5 for a new transmitter? Nobody would send me any money, Now.
Well, I would get on Facebook though, Brad, and I would bring up the fact that you once posted a picture with Mike Lindell, and then I would say that's why I'm not giving you $5, Brad. If you're going to take a picture with somebody at the Salvation Army, to hell with you, Brad.
And the irony of that was, I took that picture at the grand opening of a Salvation Army reseller shop in St. Peter's, where Mike Lindell flew in, donated literally thousands of dollars of products, and not proceeds go to the Salvation Army. He gave the products to the Salvation Army, so if they sold his pillow for $30, it was $30 in the pocket of the Salvation Army. And I will go to my grave saying, my dad took me aside and said to me, I can still remember almost his exact words, he says, don't ever give money to the American Red Cross. If you're going to give money to the Salvation Army. When I was in World War II, the Salvation Army was always there, and no matter what, they gave us anything they could give us for absolutely no cost. But the American Red Cross charges for coffee, they charge us for this, and I have done volunteer work for the Salvation Army for years, and I know that's one of those people go, well, Salvation Army is rooted in religion, and they're a terrible organization. No, they're a wonderful organization. They help people, and one of the things they help people do is get out of the grips of addiction. That's one of the things that they are known for, that they take people who are, down at their luck, who are addicted to drugs or alcohol, whatever, and they work with them to turn their lives around. Sorry, I think they'll do a wonderful thing. When there's a disaster, they show up, they're there, they help, they give away coffee, they support the first responders. Go ahead, make fun of me. And that was the whole deal. It was me and Mike Lindell out at Salvation Army raising money. That day, they probably raised, I want to say, low to mid 5 figures that day, just because of him showing up.
Brad, think of how much good that could have done for the Kiel Opera House. Ed Golterman just texted me and wanted me to say that. I mean, we could have cleaned up a couple seats down there. We could have kicked a couple vagrants off the front step and took a couple of those, old-timey chairs that have the ashtrays in them and put them on eBay, Brad. We could have done a lot, but thanks. Help Mike Lindell instead. Way to go.
John.
Post a selfie, Brad. Maybe Mike Elam will leave a heart on it. Big win.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?